like in rerun hell, and I'm back. Because the travel thing. Anyway, it's the Alison Arngrim show. I'm Alison Arngrim, although some of you may know me as Evil Nellie Olson. Tonight, luckily, I am Alison Arngrim, and this is the Alison Arngrim show. And here on the Alison Arngrim show, we talk about the things that make you feel good, the TV shows and the movies that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. Now, I say people make us feel good, and I have to say, my friend doctor coming on here generally makes us all feel good, and then unfortunately, he has to tell us things that make us all feel kind of terrified and awful. But he does at least try to phrase it in such a way that it's not quite so dreadful. And he definitely tells us about the good stuff that is happening to try to make things better as best we can. We've had him on several times. You've always loved him. Yes, it's Dr. Otto Yang from UCLA.
Thank you.
So, you've been around forever. I mean, back in the 90s, you were working in AIDS for decades in AIDS research and looking for a vaccine for HIV and all of these things. And then, of course, hey, pandemic hit, COVID. And you were like, well, I'll be getting on that then. And I first started having you on back in 2020 at the height of the whole thing, going, okay, well, you seem to know what's going on. How does the vaccine work? And what are we all doing here? And you were amazing. And I really thought that by, good God, late 2025, we'd be going, ha ha ha, having a cocktail somewhere, laughing about this. Remember when that happened? And yet here we are. We had World AIDS Day yesterday. We still have people with HIV, and people are still getting COVID, and RSV and flu and everything else. And it's still a mess. And we're still having huge screaming fights on the news about whether a disease exists, whether the way we treat a disease or vaccines exist or work like it's the 1800s. What the huh? Also, things in the news have been really crazy where I can't keep track. It's one of the reasons I want to have you on, because it was like, well, funding is cut. No, funding is back. No, funding is cut. No, funding is. Are the labs open? Are the labs closed? I don't even know what's happening anymore, but I know you do. So what the heck is going on?
Search me. It's yeah, it's above my pay grade. I mean, it's it's the falling apart of all the structures uh, that report health information. The government structures, they're being systematically dismantled. And
There's not reporting because wasn't the CDC doing reporting, or the people reporting to CDC, they said you don't have to report any of this anymore.
yeah, a lot of that's being taken apart. CDC staff has really been severely cut. And on top of that, there's active misinformation, disinformation, misinformation, both that are being poured onto us through official channels. It's truly, I know you said I make people feel good, but I think right now it's very hard to feel good about all of this that's going on. It's really just, I'm so sick of the word unprecedented, but it really is unprecedented. I mean, the CDC was the
It's crazy.
gleaming gem of,
Yes.
of health, public health, and held up.
That's who we went to when we
Yeah,
talk about AIDS all through the AIDS
that's where
pandemic.
the
We said,
whole
let's call
all
the
the whole
CDC.
world, yeah, the whole world turned to the
Yeah.
CDC, right? And with
And
outbreaks overseas, we would send teams
right,
in.
the CDC in the movies, like yes, the hot zone and the thing when you have Ebola, you call the CDC. I have a board game. There's a board game, a pandemic board game, where you trying to get back to the CDC with your little piece. It's CDC for God's sakes. And that was the thing. We used to have that Center for Contagious Disease when we had Ebola for 3.5 seconds in America. That poor man got here and he had Ebola and went into the hospital. And a couple of people died, and but it wound up maybe 9, 10, 11 people got infected tops, and only a couple died. The others made it.
Right.
And it stopped in its tracks at like 10 people, thank heaven, who were mostly his immediate family he was like living with and people in the hospital. And there weren't people like up the street or the whole hospital getting shut down. And it seemed like a miracle. And you go, well, okay, a lot of the places where people have Ebola, there's not a lot of resources. I mean, I've seen pictures on the news. I'm going, I'm not seeing glass in the windows in some of these places. What are you going to do? They shut it down. But we had that specific office that was designed to deal with something completely off the charts as Ebola, and they went, that's closed. That was closed down early on. We just don't even have that anymore for no particular reason.
Yeah, and there's no longer, and more common things like reporting of foodborne illnesses and the avian flu and how much it's affecting cows and
Wait,
stuff.
like if a restaurant has a hepatitis outbreak, we're not going to tell anybody.
Yeah, we're on our own. We're on our own.
Yikes. It's like horrifying. Now, flu season is also upon us, and I don't know if we have do we have COVID season? Is that even a season?
It's not really seasonal. It comes and goes in waves, and usually there's a wave in the winter, but there are waves in the summer too. So it's not, unfortunately, it's not seasonal like some of the other coronaviruses.
That's a drag, because at least so you can kind of go, well, I can get ready for and winter, obviously, because everybody goes indoors and shuts the windows and doors and hangs out with a whole bunch of people at holiday parties with everything closed and coughs on each other. And that is what happens. We forget that in the winter we do that and people get sick. Is there a new COVID? Is there a new thing? Are we having a spike, a trend?
Yeah, the numbers are up and down. Fortunately, it's all pretty much been sub-strains of Omicron. So I think
that's what it's Omicron still.
It's still Omicron, and I think what that tells us is that the virus, right? So the virus jumped into humans from some other species. We're still not sure exactly what. There was an intermediate species between bats and humans. We still don't know what it was.
What was that weird animal, the pangolin? What was that armadillo thing?
I think that's a suspect, but I don't think that's been confirmed. But I think what that tells us is that the virus was adapted to another animal, and then when it got into humans, it was rapidly adapting to humans, and so it was kind of jumping, changing, and I think it's gotten kind of optimized at this point, so it's not changing very rapidly, and it's mostly changing within Omicron, so that Omicron is kind of the winner. And
which is bad, because if I recall, Omicron was pretty bad.
Well, fortunately, it's actually milder in terms of the illness it causes, but it's extremely contagious. So it's almost as contagious as measles. So yeah, so you don't and it's completely airborne, which means that you just have to be in the same room as somebody. They don't have to cough on you. So yeah,
charming. So this is the one. What's the current one called with Omicron? What do we?
Oh, it's sub. I don't keep up with that terminology.
Change that much.
Because in some ways it doesn't really matter too much. It doesn't change how we treat the patient. It doesn't change. These are like, minuscule adjustments in the genetic sequence. And so I to be honest, I really don't pay much attention because it doesn't really matter too much in terms of what we do.
There's like Omicron number 47 or something. It's just another Omicron, but it's technically all Omicron. Okay.
That's all Omicron.
So going into this season, so people are getting their various shots. I did have a flu shot recently. I think I'm due. I've been getting COVID vaccine shots fairly regularly. So I guess, should I be going out and getting another COVID shot?
The answer is yes, you should. The current, the CDC recommendation was, before they disassembled all the expert panels, to get the COVID shots annually. But a lot of scientists, including myself, feel like it probably should be a little more frequent than that, probably more like every 6 months.
Interesting.
Yeah, the once a year, I think, was a recommendation, was kind of a compromise, because I think they felt like if they recommended it more often, people wouldn't do it and they wouldn't get it at all.
So when they were supposed to be once a year, but it would make people mad. So they just said, we'll just change the actual medical thing because people are annoyed.
Yeah, people are annoyed. So, but if you look at the data on how quickly the immune responses wane, it's probably about 4 to 6 months is when the protection drops off severely.
Yeah. This is the thing, because this is what we were doing at your lab when this is how we started hanging out. It was awesome because we were fascinated. I was dying to be like, make me a guinea pig for something, anything. I had a friend who was in one of the early trials and everything for the Pfizer. So you had a marvelous thing where you come in, it's like, okay, come in and we check your antibodies and then go get your shot and then come right on over like as soon as you can. And we'll run it again to see how quickly the antibodies go up and then come back like a month later, a few weeks later, and we'll do it again because you're putting out that everyone was so excited when we got the vaccines. You're putting out, yeah, this is not really going to be a herd immunity thing. This is not going to be a one and done. They're going to fall, and I want to track how they fall. And so I came in and gave blood and got tested. And you tracked a bunch of people.
We tracked quite a few people, and our data agree with the data from actually Israel. Interestingly, has one of the best public health systems and monitoring, and so they have actually carefully tracked how long people stay well or don't get COVID after vaccination. And they found that there's a drop off. 4 to 6 months is when people start to get COVID again.
That's when the drop off is. Okay. But you really, the 3 months after, they're pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, they start to drop immediately, and
That's so weird.
2 to 3 months, they're still fairly high, but yeah, they're dropping steadily. They're dropping by about half every month.
Yikes. Now you also told me though that the T cells, you were like, that's where the money is.
Yes.
That the T cells were your friends. And like, again, hello, AIDS. Yes, the T cells, those are your friends there. It's, you want to keep them T cells around. And you said the T cells basically are just showing them a picture of the virus. And that they're the ones that are going to step up, that even if you have very few antibodies and you catch it, your T cells are going to ride in like the 7th division here and save your ass. Is that still a thing?
That's absolutely still true, and has been confirmed by a lot of data. It's you can think of it as kind of defending a fort, and the antibodies would be the guards at the front gate. But if the virus gets by, then it's the T cells or the palace guard inside that fight off and keep the castle from being completely overrun. And this is the explanation also for why so many people have continued to get infected after vaccinations, because these variants escape the antibodies that are made by the vaccine, because the variants are different than what the vaccine had. And so the virus is getting around the front door. But T cells actually aren't as affected by these mutations. And
nice.
So and so they're better able to recognize the virus. And so that's why we've seen this pattern where people still continue to get infected after vaccination, but they're staying much healthier. They're not dying in the same way that they were before. So
are they sometimes not even getting terribly symptomatic? Is that a thing?
It's estimated that about 20-30% of infections now are asymptomatic. So it's very common.
I'm apparently the queen of the asymptomatic effect. I keep saying I have symptoms because I call my doctor and I say, I feel funny. And he's like, that's not, we have no category. I have no box to check for you. But the first time I had it, which was a good 2 shots or more in, and pretty much every time I've had it where I've tested positive, I tested because either I was going to go visit someone who was sick and immune compromised, or I felt weird. And I said, it's a creepy feeling up the back of my neck, but no normal temperature. And that's the thing I would call the doctor and go, oh, I've tested positive. What's your temperature? 98.6. Are you throwing up? No. Do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have SIPO?
Yep.
But I said, but it's dead positive. I've run more than one test and I feel weird. I feel like cold and strange, like something's wrong, but nothing's happening. I'm not coughing. I'm not having a fever. What is going on? He's like, lucky you have an immune system, whoopee-doo, and you took your shots and you're fine, but like, just don't go breathe on anybody, go stay home. It was really weird. And this has now happened several times, like about 4 times.
Wow.
And I just keep going like, oh yeah, I'll have friends who are sick and I test them, like, it's just also, I'm not sure what's going on. I haven't, to my knowledge, given it to anyone. And I mean, I was in a play when I first tested positive. The first time I felt sick and I tested positive. And so I freaked out and called the director and the producer and said, here's what's going on. And he called them and they all said, because they just finished the show, everyone had been running out and getting tested. And they're like, we're all negative.
Yeah.
And I said, I hung in there and told the producer, wait, I had dinner with you. I was with you the most. He's like, yeah, no, dead negative. And this has now happened a couple of times where we were Knott's Berry Farm, and 3 friends. We've been hanging out all day, went to visit, and we all tested, and it was like negative, 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 and then I was positive, and I was like, well, bye, you guys go have a good time. This has happened, so I'm not giving it to people, which I guess is nice of me.
Yep.
And I don't know, is that indicative of like a low viral load?
Almost certainly it is, right? I mean, the fact that you're not feeling very sick probably means that the virus is being kept under relatively good control, and there's not a whole lot of it circulating, or you would feel much worse. So,
and then other people in the show would call me and say that they got very, very weird. Well, now that's sort of the premise, I believe, of with HIV, of people taking PrEP and these other drugs, that it's not a cure for AIDS. We all were like, it didn't happen. But they do suppress the virus to the point that people are able to lead normal lives. But it's also been sold with, hey, if you take this, maybe your sex partners aren't going to get infected.
Yep.
And if you take this, maybe you won't get it. And that seems to be happening. That seems to be a thing, like a really actual real deal, that you can take PrEP and protect yourself and others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. People that are treated, if they have undetectable viral load in the blood, there's good data now that they don't transmit. And so,
which this is what we wanted back in the 80s.
Absolutely.
Like, could we just have a pill that keeps everybody from catching it?
Yep.
Take it down a notch.
We just need to find everybody who's infected and treat them for their own good, and everybody else's good.
And that's the thing is, we also established, from what I read at the Vancouver conference and the Montreal conference and the tests in Zimbabwe, the condoms actually do work. They're not bad. They actually did really, really do studies in Africa and everywhere else going, there's a study out of Zaire, and it was like, yep, these condoms actually stop people from getting infected. So if we know that condoms work, and we know that PrEP works, and heaven forbid someone should be using condoms and PrEP at the same time, do we not then, in theory, have a situation where we could be eliminating HIV?
Absolutely. But, human behavior is the limiting factor, and logistics and money are limiting factors, right? Because even condoms alone would work.
As they found, right? It cuts it way down. They had a study, and it was like out of, I don't know, the couples where one person had it and one person didn't, and they had a whole bunch of them, and even accounting for, they like factored in leaving them in the drawer and how many times they were going to not use them during the course of the study, and they still wound up with something like 2 cases with like
my lights went off. Hold on.
You were in the dark. Oh, you're back on again. That was exciting.
Yep. I have a motion sensor in my office.
Funding being cut again? No. Now they turn the lights off. So so are we having now the same problem with COVID? We know if you wear a mask, cover your mouth, and try to stay out of the big crowds to some extent, and that if you get a shot, the odds are this is going to go way, way, way down. But people don't seem to want to do that.
They don't, because there's so much misinformation about the vaccines. All sorts of conspiracy theory stuff that's out there. And if you go to political websites, it's remarkable how much discussion there is about vaccines, which should have nothing to do with politics, but seems to.
And now it's weird now, because when it first started, it was just the COVID vaccine. I'm like, wait, so all the other vaccines that you take, because you get, these were people like, oh yes, I get a flu shot. I'm like, kind of. So all the other vaccines you took and the ones you're taking, in fact, regular, are fine. Just this one you don't like. And I was like, I don't understand. But now apparently all the vaccines, including, I don't know, diphtheria, whooping cough, and measles,
pertussis, whooping cough,
I mean, I would have had an aunt. My mother and my aunt there was a third sister. I would have had diphtheria epidemic in the 1900s.
And dogs are getting distemper because by transference, people are not vaccinating their pets.
No, stop it.
Yeah, talk to some vets.
Oh, seriously, they've stopped vaccinating the animals.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even know that one. I'm like, I get
know. Isn't that insane?
Okay, I'm really worried. I have really strong reactions. I mean, I'm someone, if there is a side effect to be had, I am the person who will have it. Absolutely. My doctors have always joked about, we're just going to wave a pill near you because apparently that's all you need. I've had things where they just cut these in half. I will absolutely react very strongly. I mean, I remember times where I got flu shots. You don't get the flu from flu shots, but I did a hell of an impression having the flu like for half an hour. I would get the flu shot, and a couple hours later, I'd just go, oh man, I'd sweat and be hot and run a fever and just like put on a whole show. And then about 30, 40 minutes later, I was fine. I was, what is that? And my doctor said, you and that immune system of yours. So I react very strongly to every shot, pill, nose spray thing they give me. I am a cheap date. Tylenol, I will be stoned. So I get that some people are like that and they're like, okay, I'm really scared to take the vaccine because I completely freak out every time they give me anything at the doctor's. My whole system goes wonky. But they're not vaccinating the animals.
Well, apparently, I guess
there are people who've backed off on getting.
Yeah, I guess
I really hope they're
dogs.
Hoping they're sticking with that rabies one, because.
Yeah, well, that's required for licensing your dog or cat.
Yeah, you kind of gotta.
Yeah, so that one is not optional, but yeah, like distemper vaccines and such are optional.
Okay, well, I will alert the cats that they're getting their shots at the next opportunity. My cats are pro-vaccine. Like, what in the world? Okay, that's just yeah. I guess I've heard everything now. I've now actually heard everything. There are people who are refusing to vaccinate their dog. Yeah, and now there are people who are skittish about the vaccines where they have like a legitimate reason. They go, I've gotten sick from stuff. Should like these people, they should meet with their doctor beforehand and see what they can do. I mean, because maybe there are some people who can't take a shot for some reason.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's doing a disservice to people to say that the vaccines are 100% safe, right? They're not. Nothing.
What the hell's 100% safe? Everything's got some kind of problem.
Right? So you have to put it in context, right? So yes, you could have a serious reaction, but it's far more likely you'll have a serious reaction to driving down the 405, right? I mean, it's.
Well, I'm thinking if you're going to get sick from the vaccine, won't you get really, really, really sick from COVID?
Yes, and that's an excellent point.
That problem.
Because if you think about what the mRNA vaccine is, it's one of the genes of the virus, so a small piece of RNA from the virus wrapped around some fat molecules, and that they fuse with cells, and then the RNA gets in, and your cell makes that viral protein. But that's the virus itself is a big piece of RNA with a lot of genes.
With all the genes.
Wrapped around with some fat molecules that fuses with the cell and infects the cell. So the vaccine in many ways is a mini version of the virus. So yes, so a lot of these side effects that you are hearing about that are risks, like for example, some young men can get myocarditis, inflammation of the heart. I mean,
that's bad.
It's true, except it tends to be very, very mild, and it goes away by itself. But what really causes myocarditis more commonly and much more seriously is COVID-19, right? I mean, so yeah, there are side effects, but you have to realize that if you get COVID itself, these things
you're really screwed.
Much worse.
Well, I had a weird experience where you're supposed to get your smallpox vaccine when you're quite young. I don't know what happened. I mean, my mother was like, there was a blizzard. I don't know what happened. I wound up getting my smallpox vaccination at like 14 or 15, which is cuckoo, because it's just like, they were looking at my bed and go, oh, you have no smallpox vaccine on here. You have everything. You're just completely 100% for some bizarre reason. You like missed the appointment. You can get smallpox. And I'm like, that's bad. And so they said, okay, we'll do it. And they did it. And I was like, la, 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 felt totally fine. And the next day I got sick. And then I started to get really sick. And I had a fever. I went to bed. I had swelling in like my lymph glands, and the injection site looked like a horror movie. And like everything so I went, I'm acting like I have smallpox. I was the whole bit. I was sick. I had swelling. And I went, what the hell is this? And my doctor said, good thing you didn't get smallpox. He said, if that's how you reacted to the vaccine, we didn't give you. We gave you a tiny bit. I mean, he said, yeah, it wore off. It wore off and went away like nothing happened. He said, okay, well, that tells me if you had a smallpox, that would have been an incredibly bad thing.
Yeah.
So he said, if that's your so I mean, I've had a reaction to a vaccine. So now I had the Johnson & Johnson, I've had the Pfizer, and I've had the Moderna, and I've had diddly nothing. Better than my flu shot. So I think at the last one I had, are you sure you gave me the thing? Because it was like nothing.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because early in the pandemic, people they wanted to have the side effects. because
They want to know they were.
they felt like they were reassured their immune system was doing something, and now people see it as a nuisance.
Yeah, I was a little, the first two, I remember I got achy and weird. I got the thing. So I went to bed and got better. But yeah, now it's been like, oh, nothing. But it's really weird. Now the other thing is I'm seeing that people who are having effects from having COVID down the road. We've been seeing long COVID. I have
Yes.
friends who are going, yeah, I got problems from when I got the COVID. Then I'm trying to get clear because my husband was just at the doctor. We're talking about this. There's long COVID, but then there's post COVID inflammation. And apparently,
Yeah.
because I said he can't. How is he? No, it's not long COVID. Wait, he didn't have any of these symptoms with COVID, but now, and the doctor said, no, Leah, long COVID is you get a symptom and you keep it. But sometimes there's a thing where people have some sort of inflammatory thing and have issues way after having COVID, as opposed to keeping it and having long. It was very confusing.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this terminology hasn't been standardized, and so different people use different terms. And what is clear is that a lot of people have long-lasting symptoms after COVID, and so that's generally what people call long COVID. But how to define it, how long, how many symptoms, there's no real consensus at this point. And there's not one single process. There are probably several processes that can give you long-term symptoms. So this is an active area of research because it is so common. It's been estimated up to 20-30% of people after COVID can have long-lasting symptoms.
Ugh. Hey.
Yeah. Another reason to get vaccinated.
Another reason to get vaccinated. Now, since everything's gone completely haywire and every day the news says a different thing, currently I believe my drugstore is offering shots. Are they going to still be offering shots tomorrow or next week? What is going on with that? Because they said, no, you don't need them. Maybe you need them, or these people don't need them. And that's always been a float and crap game. It's like only people over 65 for this one until this month. Then the rest of you can have it. And then it was, okay, all children or all people over 60. And the age has changed. Who can have what has changed. And now they're saying, well, none of you should be having this anyway. So, now I don't know who can get a shot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to phase out the shots completely and make them completely unavailable. I think the strategy is going to be to make it so that they're not covered by insurance and that you're going to have to pay out of pocket, right?
What's that going to run? Do we know?
I don't know. I think a couple $100, I think, is an estimate that I heard. Yeah. But they're chipping away at vaccines, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Like the CDC, they raise concerns about children being given vaccines altogether, right? So they're trying
all of them, yeah,
separating, the measles, the mumps, and the rubella, which you get as one shot. I think they're trying to do that to make it really inconvenient for parents, right? Because 3 trips instead of one trip. They're trying to also do that because how can you can't necessarily get rid of the MMR vaccine when there's a measles outbreak, the combination vaccine, but you could get rid of the rubella, and mumps vaccines, right? So they just—
why would you want to get rid of the mumps? Is bad. Why would you want to get rid of the mumps vaccine? That's horrible.
Well, these people, I don't know. I mean, I do not know their reasoning. The vaccines have been around for decades. And have been safe and effective, and pediatricians vaccinate their own kids, right? And I don't know. I don't know why this is happening.
And that's a good point. People go, oh, they're just terrible people trying to vaccinate. Well, if the pediatricians are vaccinating their own children, yes. I mean, if the doctors are saying, oh, I don't do this to myself or anyone I know, just you, well, then you'd have a good conspiracy theory. But it doesn't make any sense.
Yes. I mean, right. I mean, so I know, for example, interestingly, I've met many ophthalmologists. Not a single one has had LASIK.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I did. Oh, is it?
But this is so tried and true and proven, and RFK says that there are no controlled studies. That's not true.
There's like thousands of them. Even I know that.
Yeah, and so it's baffling. It's baffling
I mean, I
why.
knew that the COVID vaccines had been tested, and people saying, "Oh, is the COVID vaccine a little new?" I said, "No, because I have a radio in my
Mhm.
car," and there was a man from the BBC, and they were talking to people who were doing the study in England about how many tens of thousands of people. And this was way early;
Over
they hadn't
20
even released
years.
it on it.
Yeah.
How many tens of thousands of people? Said, "Well, we have a vaccine like it that we've been working on for." And it's based on this vaccine that we're already using, but the brand new super new one, even before they released it, they shot up like 10, 20, 30,000 people, and that was like one study. And then they shot up another several thousand, and then I have a friend who was like, yes, great, he got the Pfizer before anybody.
Mhm.
And he knew how many people. He goes, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
They were, and so I knew that even right before they released it, there were these studies that thousands and thousands of people were being trying out the new one
Yeah.
before they put it out.
I mean,
And I have a friend, he had it in his blood for like a year before anybody else could go get it. And I said, good. So I said, if you grow two heads, you'll call me. He said, absolutely. He said, I anything happens over here, you'll be the first to know. So I said, also I'll have like a year head start. And so they were testing it. They really did. They did test it, and they did do studies, and they did all that. They
I mean,
actually
there's a
did. They
good
didn't just throw it
explanation.
in the box.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good explanation, right? Because this comes up a lot. It's like, how can we trust something that was developed in like 3 months and then put in everybody? And the answer, as you're saying, is that no, the
It wasn't in
mRNA
3 months,
vaccines have been around for 20 years.
right?
But you have to look at it like from the standpoint of a vaccine developer or a company that has the vaccine, right? Because if you have this vaccine, you know it works in animals perfectly well. You know it makes the types of immune responses we want, antibodies and T cells. When are you going to put it out there, right? So let's say you have this 20 years ago. You're going to say, okay, well, we want to put it out there, but you can't test it for a disease where there's already a vaccine, right? Because number one, it's not ethical because there's something we know works and is safe. So you can't replace it with something unknown. Number two, that disease is not circulating, so you won't know if the vaccine works or not, right? So it was sitting on the shelf because of that. And then you could say, well, why don't we try testing it against a disease for which there's no vaccine, like HIV? Well, the answer for that is because no vaccine has worked for HIV. So there's something different about that disease. You do not want to take your vaccine and try it for something that no vaccine has worked for so far. So when can you test it? Well, the first disease that came around for which there was no vaccine that was in a lot of people was COVID, right? So, from the standpoint of the companies that had this technology, this was the first opportunity to
But
put it
that
out there.
then they start tweeting. But like even the quote brand new one, we still tested on a whole bunch of people before they
Oh
put it
yeah,
in the box. Before I
absolutely.
went drove to the parking lot and shot me up,
Yeah.
many tens of thousands of people had already tested this. So it was like it was not. They didn't just take it out and stick it in a box and send it to the store. It didn't. So I mean, I knew that. But it's still this is bonkers. So far so good. We should still have availability for tests. We may
I
wind
think
up
so.
paying
Yeah.
for them, maybe at some point.
Yeah.
What if they dismantle that? Would there be a situation where you can simply go to your doctor and say, prescribe the shot, and then therefore it might be covered by my insurance?
It won't be covered if insurance company policies aren't allowing it as an indication, right? So if your doctor can prescribe it, but if it's quote off label, right? If it's not for the indication that the insurance company considers to be reasonable, then no. But I think
Yikes.
fortunately and unfortunately, we're old enough probably that as the age thing will qualify for it. But a young person who's otherwise healthy, it may become a
It's
big
going to be
problem.
rough.
Yeah.
Well, this is yikes. Now, over at your lab, how are things over there? Because I remember it was summer where they said, we're cutting off funding. It was a running thing with all the universities. We're cutting funding for this. You need to pay us several $billion, sort of a strange ransomy thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So you were cut off. Like, were you packing up boxes and then there was a court order and they changed it? What happened over there?
Yeah. So the Department of Justice actually sent a letter to UCLA saying that multiple grants were suspended.
Because the Department of Justice is always who oversees medical
Of course,
grants. Is
yes,
that
they're the
new?
ones that
I
watch
don't remember
over.
that. I don't remember the Department of Justice being in charge of
Yeah,
labs that
so
work on disease.
it was more than $500 million in grants at UCLA, including all of mine were suspended, and this
All
was
of
like July 31st. So
everything that
yeah,
paid everybody in your lap, all the money to do anything
everything.
that you do,
And
gone.
a big part of my salary, yes. So we were more, I mean, the school did step up and start paying some expenses for labs, and I fortunately have some money banked away from really generous donors who have donated to my research over the years that I've banked away, and so I was able to continue running at full speed, unlike many other labs. And then a federal district judge did reverse that, said that it was an illegal order. And so after 2 months, the funding was restored. So that the acute crisis is sort of over. The more chronic process of money going down and down and down and more difficult to get is still going on. And so there's going to be a massive die-off of people doing research. And the most recent news, which is insane. Just to give you in a nutshell, biomedical researchers at universities, we support all our own research through research grants, and most of it usually comes from NIH, National Institutes of Health, and it works through a peer review system. So you write a grant application, it goes to NIH. A group of scientists, mostly university professors, that are brought in to review these grants, and they give them a numerical score, a quality score, and then usually the top however many percent are funded.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. But that system now apparently has been suspended by the government. So they've decided that they're not going to fund grants based on scores anymore. They're going to just fund them based on a group of people, most of whom are politically appointed, are just going to decide what's funded.
And they will not necessarily be doctors or scientists or
no,
anybody.
no, or there will be wacky ones. I mean that's what's hit the news recently. I haven't confirmed that that's true yet, but that's
appears to be
reported to be appears to be what's true, and it certainly would not be surprising given the way things have gone.
Right,
So,
they've switched a lot of things too. We're just going to have political appointees decide this.
yeah.
That all of Department of Education, all these things are being changed where we're not going to have that. We're just going to have the government directly decide it and not have panels of people in the field.
Right. So this is obviously very distressing, and the peer review system is not perfect and is also prone to like scientific politics, but not politics like this. So
you already had the problem where like somebody liked somebody better,
right.
or they went to school with their dad, so they're like that happens. So you have that,
right.
But now it's just any pretense is going to go.
Yeah.
Okay, yikes. So do you think you'll be still where you are for a while?
I will hang on as long as I can. Research, it's ironic because this is a better time than ever to be a physician scientist.
Really?
Absolutely. In terms of, the tools, the things that we can do in the lab are amazing. Something like when I was early in my research career, sequencing a gene could earn you a PhD, right? And now an undergraduate can walk into my lab and we can instruct them and they can sequence a gene in a week. I mean, it's the tools now are so powerful and so user-friendly that a scientist can really focus on the scientific questions without having to have deep expertise in the technical aspects, which used to be the way it was.
It was all the tech, but I remember during the early days of AIDS, they said, if only we could sequence the gene, we have to even figure out, is it a virus? We have to locate the virus, and then we need to sequence a gene. And this was like climbing Everest, like one day we shall sequence the gene.
Right.
And now you're saying people just come in and go, here, got your gene sequence.
Yeah. Boy, right. HIV was years to do that. And COVID-19 actually in China came out with the sequence like within like 2 weeks. Right. So yeah, and which allowed the mRNA vaccines to be developed quickly. The technology is just so advanced now. Scientists can do the science rather than worry about so much all the technical aspects of doing the science. So it's a really fantastic time to do science. So it's really ironic that everything is falling apart in terms of allowing us to do the science that we want to do. And other countries are, namely, especially China, is really investing in their science, and they're going to pull ahead of us. And
So these countries are going to be way ahead of. If you were having a kind of like, the space race of who's getting to the moon first, we're going to get our butts kicked.
well, there's a moratorium on mRNA vaccine research in the U.S. on funding it, right?
Why would you not want more mRNA vaccines? I mean, there's other diseases you need that.
Well, I mean, there was a very promising study on treating pancreatic cancer with mRNA
Hello.
technology. Yeah, exactly.
What killed Michael Landon? Thank you. We would like to have a cure for pancreatic cancer vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all despite those successes, the government has decided that no mRNA technology research is to be funded. So yes, insanity. I do not have a silver lining for you. I do not know what's going on.
And no one has quite figured out like what is the purpose of all of this nonsense. Now, I guess the purported purpose is all of these cures for diseases and vaccines and medicines that are keeping people alive are in fact evil and must be stopped, and that we're all going to live longer by not taking any medicine. That, I guess, is what they're putting out, but
Evil
we know
pharma.
that's not a thing. People die. Someone the other day was saying, well, what did people do before all these things? They all dropped dead at 35. What do you think they did?
Right. Women died in childbirth, and right.
And people didn't live to be 5. When people say, well, the average life expect, because they had to add all of the people who died at 3 and 4. Children did not make, hello, Little House on the Prairie. Children did not live to their 5th birthday. That was a thing in the 1800s.
Almost a third of people died from smallpox, right? It's got a 30% mortality.
People died without all this stuff.
Your high school class, a third of them being gone, right? It's that's the way it used to be. Yeah. So I guess that was when we were great.
Is this like reduce the surplus population? Has someone lost their mind and said, well, does everybody get sick?
Well, meanwhile, they're talking about how our population is dropping and they want everyone to have children, right? So
wait, and then why? Yeah, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. If you think the population is dropping, then maybe cutting off all the medicine so that everybody drops dead is a bad idea.
None of it makes sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, it's so weird. It's so weird. Do you see? I was saying, do you see? As you said, you have no silver lining. Do you see a way of being able to do mRNA research somewhere? With
Europe and China, Japan, all those other countries are pursuing it, full speed ahead because they see the promise.
So while we flop around like fish on the sand, so people we can call up and like France or England can send us the medicine.
Yeah, I guess that's going to be how it works. Yeah.
Eek. Again, it's so lovely always talking to you. I always feel so much better. Not.
Yeah.
That's horrifying. Is there any good news about the flu? I know that's a nasty one, supposedly this year.
Well, there's good news and bad news. The strain that's predominating now, H3N2, was predicted and is in the vaccine. That's the good news. The bad news is that the H3N2 that's circulating has mutated somewhat, so it's not clear if the vaccine is going to be as effective as it should.
I think mine worked because I got my shot and then everybody got the flu and I didn't. Now I got something else because there's always something else. I got something that was apparently not COVID or the flu. It was thoroughly unpleasant. Got better. I got bed rest and Mucinex D and fluids, but friends who got what appeared to be exactly the same thing, at least one got pneumonia, one went into bronchitis. It was ugly. What the heck was that? It wasn't COVID. It wasn't the flu. What was that?
Yeah, there are several potential suspects, but one of the big ones is RSV, virus, right? And so that certainly can cause something like that. But there are others like parainfluenza virus, and there are various others. So it could be any of several. But yeah.
So even if you have all your shots, you could get something. Because I'm like lying there in bed, sweating and blowing my nose, going, "Well, it's not. What am I doing wrong here?" I got better relatively quick. I didn't. Once again, didn't get as sick as a lot of people I knew.
Yep.
but it was unpleasant. We don't really have shots for all of that. There's a shot
No.
for RSV though, isn't there?
Yeah. Yes. RSV, there's a vaccination for. Yeah.
Ugh. So let's see. I guess so. I guess I'm do a COVID and RSV. Now, if you had this one is a big one. If you've just had COVID, how long do you have to wait before getting your next vax?
There's no evidence that it's a problem to get vaccinated very soon after having
Oh,
had
good.
COVID. But since you just had COVID, you're probably going to have it's like a natural vaccination
Yeah,
booster
you're going to have antibodies
responses.
for a while.
So you could probably treat that as like having been vaccinated and go the 6 months afterwards.
Well, you could wait that long. I mean, because
Right.
some people are saying, oh, you need to really wait 30 days. You need to wait 3 months. Is it like a
Yeah, it's not based on any clear data. It's just kind of theoretical. It's like, you know, quote, maybe it might be too much to get vaccinated right
yeah?
after. But the truth is, if you look at the dose of how much mRNA is in the vaccine versus how much mRNA is made when you actually have COVID, it doesn't it doesn't compare. It's
So
like
if you waited 2 or 3 months, it's probably
not a
not the
big
end
deal.
of the world. Okay, it's not
Yeah,
like a disaster. Okay,
yeah.
because
And if you got vaccinated sooner than that because you didn't know that you had COVID,
no,
that's not gonna. It's not
because
gonna.
I wouldn't know, and I wouldn't
Right.
know unless I'm going to the home of someone ill, or I'm really really sick and going and that's the part that drives me crazy. Because when I get sick and I have the flu or RSV or what have, I'm like, well, this is it, and I test and it's
Mm-hmm.
negative.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. I go down to the doctor and have the good test up, and I'm like, no, I'm like this. So this isn't COVID. The thing I had with no symptoms was COVID. This thing isn't COVID. So me, yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy making. So what do we do? What the heck do we do now? I mean, okay, so as you said, a lot of these things we may be kind of on our own here. I don't know. We don't know how long this madness is going to last. If somebody can, because apparently people change their mind every 5 minutes about
Mm-hmm.
this too, which is a wacky thing. What do you recommend going into winter, into
Yep.
December, into flu season, RSV season, COVID season, and there's a lot of chaos around medical research and shots. What should the average person who would prefer to not get deathly ill do?
Well, there are still reliable sources of information. So the professional medical societies are still carrying on the type of work that the CDC should be doing, and they're continuing to review the evidence. And making recommendations about vaccinations. Several states have banded together and are trying to kind of create their own CDC type.
New CDC.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are still good sources of information. And if generally those of us that are at major academic places are plugged into all that. And so if you turn to your trusted experts that are at a big major academic medical center, you should still be able to get accurate information.
Would you go online, perhaps, where there are like websites
Mm-hmm.
like for the European versions of the CDC, the French or the British version or something?
Yeah.
Could ask them.
Yeah. But even in this country, the data are still being reviewed and looked at by experts here. It's just not formally being channeled to the CDC anymore. But large medical societies are still having looking at the data and coming up with recommendations. And so like the American Academy of Pediatrics, for example, it still has their recommendations about childhood
Nice.
vaccinations. Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, you just said that someone's going to show up at their door tomorrow. Do we still have things like morbidity, mortality, weekly report, and all of
That's
those?
become useless. That's been gutted.
Because I remember on the AIDS hotline we had the week, but we had the newsletters, we had the
Yes.
little things.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are gone.
Yeah. MMWR used to be fantastic information.
MMWR.
Yep, telling you what's happening.
Read it every day.
There's a salmonella outbreak. There's a cryptosporidium outbreak in strawberries. Whatever, you could look at it.
I love that thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we don't have that anymore.
Gutted.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I really things I didn't think I'd live to see the day.
Yeah. I mean, too bad Rod Serling's not still around, right? I mean,
or Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan talked about this. He said,
yeah, that's right. He did. He predicted
we
a
were
lot
all
of this.
kind of dumb and would do something like this. Yikes. Okay, well, I'm gonna, wrap my face in cellophane before I go anywhere. I'm terrified now. Yeah. I'm doing my best with my weird asymptomatic version of COVID that I keep getting. Yikes. So, I mean, I only have a few more minutes. Where can people find you if they want to find you or talk to you?
Oh, there are not a lot of Otto Yangs around. If you Google me, you can you can find me at UCLA, and you can. It's not hard to track me down. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also post funny things about
Yeah,
like
I'm
Mariah
on
Carey
Facebook.
and Christmas carols on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, and my account's open, public. Probably not a good idea, but it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we find you on Facebook, and we can look you up at UCLA. All right, fingers crossed that but yeah, I'm gonna have to start looking for the good websites. I can't believe Morbidity Mortality Weekly Report website. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
what are we gonna do? All right, well, everybody out there, bundle up, mask up, wash your hands, all the diseases, wash your hands.
With soap and
I
water.
managed
Soap and water, because a
I
lot of
managed to
viruses.
have
Yeah.
oh yeah, I managed to have COVID and norovirus at the same time once.
Mm,
And
oh,
I
not
found out
pleasant.
about how many bags it takes to rehydrate you when you have
Yes.
literally nothing in your body.
Norovirus. Yeah, horrible. Yeah.
Two bags it took.
Yeah.
I was dust. So everybody wash your hands, mask up in a crowd, and try to get as many shots as they'll let you have. Thank you so much. I hope we have better news the next time we talk to you. And this is the Alison Arngrim Show, and I'm Alison Arngrim.
Always a pleasure.
I found my way home, close to